Does everyone have a calculator to work with? Okay, so for this first one, it says it gives you just one function, and it says, oh, so sorry. Looking at polynomial graphs, we started it on Friday. I apologize for the confusion. And I'm just looking at the back of the sheet. So I'm going to go ahead and graph this equation. I'm going to go ahead and graph this. So everyone is using their calculators and you're typing this in. And if you want to set the window so it's identical to this graph, you can. I'll just change it to -8 instead of -10. So make them all 8 so that they match. Should look the same as long as I didn't have a typo on the worksheet. Yep, there we go. Okay? Yeah, it can always happen. So they said, where is f of x? And what does f of x really mean? Y. Okay, where is y greater than or equal to 0? Where is y equal to 0? Looks like it's about -2. It's the x-intercepts, right? So y is equal to 0 at the x-intercepts. We're going to see 3 different spots. Where is y greater than 0? Yeah, so we've got right here, I'm going to go ahead and label it in the picture. This is where y equals 0. And then this part right here is where y is greater than 0. Greater than 0. Y equals 0, y equals 0. And then this part right here is where y is greater than 0. And that's the part that they want us to write. So real quick, I'm going to find the x-intercepts. The easiest way to do it is probably to make your y2 equal 0. So that we can do second trace number 5 and just find the intersections. It looks like the x-intercept is -2, but it could be like -1.987. So I'm going to, double check and make sure that it's actually -2 and not just decimals. So I've got second trace number 5. I'm just going to move over towards that first one and press enter, enter, enter. And it was not -2, it was a decimal. Okay, so how do we write this answer? We're doing x values. Our first x value is an arrow. What x value is that? -infinity, because it's an arrow that's going to the left. So we're going to say -infinity to the x value of the x-intercept, which is -1.895. Based on the way the problem is written, should that be a bracket or a parenthesis? Bracket, because it says it can equal 0, which means it's equaling the x-intercepts. So I've got a bracket. All right, and then all these values are where y is less than 0, so we're not going to include any of those. We're going to jump over to the next x-intercept. I'm going to do second trace number 5 again, but I'm going to move it over to the next one. Press enter, enter, enter. That was just 1. Okay, so I'm going to start at 1. And then what do I do? Yeah, second trace 5, find the next one. Move it over a little bit. 1.789. And then what do I put around those two numbers? Brackets. Because you're equaling 0, and it said to include it. So bracket, what else do I need? U. Okay, so this said where is f of x greater than or equal to 0? That's saying where is it 0, where is it positive? The next question says where is f of x negative? So where is it going to be? Yeah, it's going to be below. So right here, this is one spot where y is negative. So we're going to say negative 1.895. So starting at this x-intercept, it's negative all the way to what value? To 1. Brackets or parentheses? Parentheses, because if we put brackets, we were saying that it's negative when it equals 0, and 0 is not considered a negative number. Also not considered a positive number. It's a neutral? Yeah, it's a 0 number. Okay, so we have it's negative from negative 1.895 to 1, and then it's positive for a little bit, and then where else is it negative? (1.789) to positive infinity. Again, we got parentheses. So it's negative from here to the right arrow. A right arrow is considered to be infinity. And put the u in between. Okay, next it says where is f of x equal to 5? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this, and this is where we have a y value of 5, right? And it crosses the graph right here, so I need to know what that point is right there, where we have a y value of 5. How can I do that on my calculator? Oh, that's a great answer. Plug in 5 for y. Do we know how to do that, though? You just do it. In the y equals screen, so x equals is a little bit easier to plug in. If you want to find something where y equals something specific, you actually have to do it in the y equals screen. So hit y equals. Instead of y equaling 0, I'm going to make y equal 5. And then I see where the two graphs cross. So we can't plug in 5 for y in a traditional sense, but we can graph it and then find the intersection. So I graphed 5. Now I'm going to do second trace number 5 and press enter, enter, enter. You don't have to move it because there's only one intersection, so it will automatically find it. And so when I find this intersection, the question was where is? So where is the y coordinate 5? What type of answer do I write for that? I just say at x equals. So you already know the y coordinate. You don't have to write it again. The y coordinate's 5. That's what they told you. So we don't have to write this like a point. We can just say the x coordinate. So at an x coordinate of I love these moments where we all know the answer, but nobody wants to say it. It's nice and awkward. Negative 2.054. Whew. That was rough. Happy Monday. Goodness. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and look at the next one. This time we've got two different graphs. Whew. Two graphs. Okay. Where is g of x positive? So I'm going to go ahead and clear what I just graphed. And I'm just going to go ahead and plug in g of x, which is this one. And go ahead and graph it and see which one it is. It's the gray one. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and label this just so I don't forget. So the gray one is g of x. That means that the black one is f of x. Okay, so how do I figure out where g of x is positive? I look for the x-intercept, because the x-intercept is where g of x is 0. So when they say where is g of x positive, they're really asking where is the y-coordinate positive, or where is the y-coordinate above the x-axis. So we're going to look for where the y-coordinate is 0 exactly, and then we know everything above that is where the y-coordinate is positive. So I'll go ahead and graph for y2, I'll plug in 0, so I can do the intersection option for graphing this and finding the x-intercept. So now I can do second trace, number 5. Okay, so the x-intercept is 2.486. And what should I write to answer the question, where is the y-coordinate positive? It's going to be an interval. It's not specific because we're going to say at x equals 2.486, that's where it's 0, but that's not what they asked, right? They asked where is it positive? And that's a range of numbers. So how do we describe this? Negative infinity to 2.486. Bracket or parenthesis? Parenthesis, because we're not equaling 0, we have to be positive. So no equaling 0, that means parenthesis. Okay. Where is f of x equal to g of x? What do we have to do? Find the intersection, graph both of them, find the intersection. Okay, so x to the third minus 3x squared minus 1. And then what do I do? Yep, second trace, number 5. Enter, enter, enter. So we have 2 ways we can answer this question. You can say at an x value of 2.762. That's one way. That's taking them literally. They want to know where it's happening. I'm just saying the x value where it's happening. Or you could also just write down the entire coordinate of the point, the x coordinate and the y coordinate. So you're being really specific. Either one of those answers is good. So if it were multiple choice, you could tell by the answer choices which one they wanted. If this were not a multiple choice problem, you could write either answer to get credit. If I wanted the full point, then I should tell you, write your answer as x comma y or something like that. How do we figure out where f of x is greater than g of x? Do you guys remember how to answer these ones? Kind of. But it says where, so that means we have to answer in terms of x coordinates. So what do you mean when you said up? Hi. Yes. So we know where they equal each other. We know it's approximately right here. We want to know where f of x has a y that's bigger than g of x's y. So what do we look for on the graph to know that that's happening? F of x is the black line. What do we want to know about the black line versus the gray line? Yeah, we want to know which one has a y-coordinate that's higher at that time. So if you look on the left side of the graph, which graph is on top? Yeah, the gray one. The gray one's bigger. All these y-coordinates are going to be bigger than the black ones because they are physically higher. Okay, so if we are looking for where the black graph is bigger, what are we looking for? We're looking for where it's got to be higher, it's got to be above. So this is where they start to equal each other, but if you compare the black one versus the gray one, see when I move my pen, I have to move it up to show the black one, I have to move it down to look at the gray one. That means that the gray one has lower y values. So my answer is going to be right here. This is where f of x is bigger because it is physically higher than the gray line. Does that make sense? So how do I write those x values? So it starts at the intersection and goes to what? Infinity. So we're going to start at 2.762. We're going to go to infinity. I know that has to be a parenthesis because it always does. But if I look at the way they phrased C, should it be a parenthesis or a bracket for the number? Bracket, because you want to say where they equal each other. That means you're including the answer. Okay. The next question says, where are both functions decreasing? That means where is the stick figure walking downhill at the same time for both? So we've got the stick figure is walking downhill on the gray line, is walking downhill from negative infinity to 0. What is the stick figure doing during that time on the black line? Going up. It's increasing. Okay, so they are not both decreasing at that point. Okay. Then on the gray line, the stick figure is walking uphill up to this point. That's probably a decimal. So they are not both decreasing at that point, right? Okay. And then the gray line from this point down, the stick figure is decreasing forever. You guys see that? Okay. With the black line, the stick figure is decreasing, but not for very long. If I look at this, like right about here is where they're both decreasing at the same time, and then the stick figure on the black line would start increasing a little bit. So what I need to do is I need to take g of x, and if we look, g of x is the first one we graphed. I need to take g of x, I need to figure out what its maximum is. So we're going to go ahead and do second trace number 4. And since g of x was the first equation that we plugged into our calculator, when we go to find the maximum, it's automatically going to put us on g of x. So we can jump over the other line, but we don't need to. We're automatically on g of x. So I'm going to go ahead and look and see what that maximum is for g of x. Okay, so that's the point 1.333. Since I'm answering the question where, I only need the x-coordinate because the x-coordinate gives us the location. Okay, so where are both functions decreasing? G of x is decreasing from 1.333 all the way to infinity. So I know that f of x is going to be, it's decreasing. It looks like it's from 0 to 2 that it's decreasing, but I just want to make sure that that point it's decreasing at is actually 2 and not like 2.019 or something. Does that make sense? I want to make sure it really is the number 2. You guys using your brains? We still focused? Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do second trace number 3 because that's a minimum. My cursor is on g of x. I need to hit the down arrow to make it jump to the other curve. So see how the cursor is right here? If I hit the down arrow, it hopped over to the other curve, and now I can find the minimum of the other curve. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm looking for the minimum. And that was at an x value of exactly 2. So that worked out nicely. Okay. So that means that the graph, they are decreasing at the same time. For this, it looks like slanted down, slanted down. So how do I write that answer? What's the first x value that I should use? 1.333. What's the second x value I should use? 2. And then I'm going to go ahead and put parentheses because we know that for increasing and decreasing, I never worry about brackets. I just always put parentheses. Whew. Okay, so your job now is to do number 25, which is going to be very similar to 23, and finish the front side and get it turned in. Okay, so 25 front side, get it turned in. Answer key is in the back, so you can check the answers if you need to.